I am a post-90s individual. When I was a mere child, the harsh reality of my parents' divorce shattered the stability of my early years. I was placed under my dad's care, a decision that would shape much of my subsequent life. I had an absolute disinterest in studying, finding the world of academia a dull and uninviting place. As a result, I managed to scrape through vocational high school with the bare minimum of effort. My daily routine was a chaotic blend of aimless indulgence, eating, drinking, and playing formed the core of my existence. When boredom clawed at me, I would seek out odd jobs, but with a fickle commitment that saw me quitting at the slightest hint of discomfort and retreating back home. After all, with my dad's financial support, money was never a source of concern. Perhaps it was the trauma of my parents' broken marriage that cast a long shadow over my emotional landscape. I developed a rather nonchalant attitude towards relationships, or maybe I simply lacked the understanding of how to genuinely love someone. Instead, I reveled in being the object of affection and being coddled. I had a penchant for sweet nothings and the heady rush of what I perceived as romance, constantly craving the novelty and excitement it promised. Sometimes, I would half-heartedly tell myself that I was reaching an age where settling down was a sensible course, but these were mere empty musings that never translated into action. I was all too focused on seizing the pleasures of the moment, oblivious to the potential consequences or the harm my actions might inflict on the other party. I had waltzed through several relationships, each one a shallow dance of fleeting entertainment. None held any real depth or commitment. It was all just a game of passing fancy until I reached the milestone of 25. When a friend introduced a boy into my life, my parents took an immediate liking to him. Their criteria were simple. He didn't need to be swimming in whales. As long as he possessed a good character and treated me well, that was enough. They went as far as preparing a wedding room for me, sparing the man's family from this burden. I held no particularly passionate feelings towards my boyfriend. I merely saw it as an opportune time to conform to societal expectations and settle down. Besides, his kindness towards me was undeniable. It could be said that he was obedient to my every whim. The sole drawback was his overly earnest and responsible nature, coupled with a complete lack of understanding of romance. I, on the contrary, was someone who craved novelty and excitement when it came to matters of the heart. In the intimate moments we shared, he seemed rather inexperienced and struggled to master the art of seduction. There were scarce occasions when I reached the heights of ecstasy with him. I had contemplated sharing my concerns with him on numerous occasions, but the words stubbornly lodged in my throat. I was paralyzed by the fear of bruising his fragile self-esteem and convinced myself that as long as we both fulfilled our basic duties, it didn't have to be a flawless union. How naively I believed in this harmony. I had been dating my boyfriend for over 2 years, and the topic of marriage loomed on the horizon. However, it was precisely at this juncture that I crossed paths with a he was an employee at a pet store. Out of sheer boredom and at my dad's insistence, I found myself at his friend's pet store. Becoming a colleague of his, he was a seasoned veteran in the game of charm. He had a silver tongue and an undeniable allure. From the very first encounter, I could sense an underlying connection. The two of us seemed to be kindred spirits, both averse to the monotony of loneliness and the banality of routine, constantly in pursuit of that elusive spark of freshness and excitement. In the days that followed, he made it his mission to engage me in conversation, seizing every opportunity to tease and flirt. I have to admit that my heart, which had lain dormant for so long, was awakened by his advances. Initially, I wrestled with a sense of guilt, knowing full well that I had a committed boyfriend who had shared so much of my journey. He was the one my parents had wholeheartedly approved of. But as time wore on, I managed to rationalize my actions, convincing myself that it was merely innocent banter. I hadn't crossed any definitive lines of betrayal, or so I told myself. In this way, A grew increasingly bold. It was as if he had peered into the depths of my soul and sensed my vulnerabilities, exploiting them without a shred of hesitation. When no one was within earshot at work, he would boldly embrace me, steal clandestine kisses, and gently squeeze my hand, these gestures becoming a familiar and dangerous dance. I, too, found myself surrendering to the allure, my inhibitions melting away. One fateful night after work, we shared a tacit understanding to remain behind. Then, with a mixture of anticipation and trepidation, I climbed onto his little electric scooter and allowed him to whisk me away to his humble rental house. The moment we crossed the threshold, passion consumed us, and we surrendered to our desires. To be honest, A's touch was like a wildfire, igniting sensations I had never before experienced. He possessed an arsenal of techniques that left my otherwise staid boyfriend paling in comparison. That night, I was transported to a realm of repeated ecstasy. The next day dawned with my legs weakened and my spirit drained, a testament to the intensity of our encounter. In this clandestine web of passion, A and I embarked on a perilous affair. Whenever we slipped out of the prying eyes of the world, we would surrender to our forbidden desires, oblivious to the potential fallout. Maybe my life up until that point had been too smooth, too lacking in genuine passion. The thrill of this illicit liaison filled the void I had felt for so long. Of course, I was acutely aware that our entanglement was nothing more than a fleeting escape, a secret tryst that could never evolve into a committed relationship. Marrying him was an impossibility that never even crossed my mind. Ever since I became entangled with A, the embers of my relationship with my boyfriend grew colder, our interactions dwindled, and the once familiar connection frayed at the edges. I was so consumed by the intoxicating allure of my newfound passion that I remained oblivious to the gradual transformation in my boyfriend. The signs of his suspicion and hurt eluded my notice. That fateful night, A and I once again shared a silent pact to stay and watch the store. As soon as the last of our colleagues departed, we couldn't contain our impatience and hastily extinguished the lights. Upstairs, on the second floor, the lounge area awaited, with its inviting sofa providing a more convenient setting than the distant rental house. As A and I lost ourselves in the throes of passion on the sofa, the door was suddenly kicked open with a force that reverberated through the room. My boyfriend burst in, his eyes wild with rage, and launched himself at A, raining down blows in a blind fury. In the pandemonium that ensued, I frantically grabbed my coat, attempting to preserve what little dignity remained, and fled downstairs in a disheveled state, racing back to the safety of my home. Soon after, my dad returned, his face etched with disappointment and anger. He berated me, his words cutting like a knife. When you were engaged in this sordid affair with A, couldn't you have foreseen the inevitable exposure? It was only a matter of time. In the heat of your passion, did you not stop to consider the consequences? A is no good, and neither are you. It takes two to tango. You both willingly participated in this betrayal. My boyfriend had spilled the beans, not only to my father but also to the pet shop owner, ensuring that my reputation lay in tatters. Since then, I have been confined to the confines of my home, a prisoner of my own shame. I dared not step outside, consumed by a deep sense of regret for having lost the boyfriend who had shown me nothing but kindness. And the source of my downfall, vanished from my life as quickly as he had entered it. Since that fateful night, he has made no attempt to contact me, and I, too, have lost the desire to reach out. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have lost everything I held dear. I know that I cannot remain hidden within the walls of my home for eternity. I must eventually step out into the world. I long to escape this city, to venture further afield to a strange place where no one knows my name or the sordid details of my past. I yearn to reinvent myself, to shed the skin of my past mistakes and embrace a new beginning. Do you think I can? I sincerely hope to receive your words of encouragement and support.